Do you think sleep is important for a child with autism? And why is so? Let's go one at a time. Do you think sleep is important? Yes or no? Just put it down. Yes, definitely. Yes, yes, yes. How many hours of sleep do you think is needed for a child who has a neurodiverse brain? How many hours according to you? 9 hours, 12 hours, 8 to 9 hours, 8 hours, 10 to 13 hours, 9 to 10 hours, at least 8 hours, 10 hours. So everyone has a different number that we have. I attended a lot of sleep courses. I was really interested, and in most of the courses the number that comes up for a child who has a neurodiverse brain, it's I won't say at least or less, 11 hours of sleep is recommended. And that too, I'm talking about nighttime sleep. I'm not talking about afternoon sleep. Nighttime sleep of 11 hours is very important, because that helps the daytime functioning and the activity level to be regulated. So one very crucial thing that is extremely important is sleep. If you see my YouTube channel, in that there is a video that I've made called sleep routines. So you, or I think sleep hygiene, and it has a lot of pointers that I've given about how to help with better sleeping patterns. So sleep is extremely important if I want to work with a child. I have worked with so many kids, and many a times I have found out that kids are not improving faster, or they're taking a lot of time to retain or to learn skills because they're not sleeping enough. So sleep is of prime importance. Okay. Do you think that a child should sleep at the same time every day, or you think it's okay if the child sleeps at different times every day? So do you think the child should sleep at the same time every day? Just put that down here. Same time every day. Yes, yes, yes. Ideally, yes. It's the same time every day. And we know it all cognitively, intellectually. We know it all. But with most parents that I work with, they have different timings of sleeping every day. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock has become like a very normal thing. So I feel sleeping between 9 and 10 for any child is very important. Even for adults it is very important. So sleep is extremely important. Having a sleep routine is very important. It's okay if 1-2 hour difference. No, I don't think it's okay. 1-2 hour difference is a lot of difference, Priyanka. I feel if it's the same time, it's going to be very helpful for a child. Yes. So sleep of 11 hours, sleeping at the same time every day is very important. If I want, and if I want the child to learn faster, if I want the child to be able to regulate his behavior, that is extremely important. Okay. The next thing that I want to come out, so first main thing is, what is autism? Okay, that is one. Social skills, communication, repetitive ritualistic behavior. That's it. That may affect learning, thinking, talking, speaking, eye contact. I won't go into each of those things. And I feel as parents, if you're working with your child, if you're very clear, okay, oh, these are the sensory issues that have come up. Okay, this is where I'm working. Oh, this is about communication. So you're very chunking it up. Okay, this is what I need to work on with my child, because parents many a times get overwhelmed. What do I work upon? This or that or this or that. But if I can chunk it, okay, this is all in communication, and I've given enough time for communication today. I have given enough time for sensory difficulties or concerns or challenges, and I've given enough time for the social skills. So once I chunk it up, like whatever number of hours that I devote, and I spread it out properly, it helps me to be better organized as a parent. Yeah. So that is one. If there's a question here, if kid sleeps daytime for 2 hours, any pointers on what to do if the kid sleeps at the same time, wakes up every day, but wakes up intermittently during sleep? If the child wakes up intermittently during sleep, it is an indication that the child is not able to shut down, that the stress response is active, and we need to work on diminishing the stress response. That is what we would do. And Siddiq Ahmed says, if he sleeps in the afternoon, if the child sleeps in the afternoon 2 hours, afternoon sleep is a restful sleep. Nighttime sleep is restorative sleep. So nighttime sleep is better. Okay. And 11 hours is for kids of any age. Yes, ideally, yes. And ideally what happens is, see, yeah, it is of any age. Yes. If your child sleeps between 9 and 10 and wakes up on his own bright and chirpy in the morning, maybe after 9 hours or so, you know that the child has had a good sleep. Throughout the day, the child is functioning well. But 11 hours is what is usually spoken about in most conferences. Yeah, that's what it is, Jayanti. If the child is waking up in the morning or at night at varying times, that means, and if that's going to happen, then no matter whatever amount of therapy you do or whatever work that you do with your child, the progress wouldn't be that fast as much as we expect it. So if the child is waking up, we work on reducing the stress response. And what do I mean by stress response? Are you aware of what is a stress response? Give me a thumbs up if yes. If no, I'll go into the details of it. Do you know what's a stress response? No. Okay. Okay. So, whenever we are faced with any challenging situation, it could be an interview that for an adult where you have to go for an interview. It can be an exam for a child who's appearing, or it could be a processing within my system. That's so if I'm not able to, so if I am able to, right now I'm sitting in front of a window, okay, so in the morning if I sit in front of this window, the light is too bright, it's really bright, so I have to turn my table or I have to put the curtains. If the light is that bright, that triggers my stress response, okay. If there's a lot of traffic sound, chee choo pee pee poop poop, whatever, it triggers my stress response. And when my stress response is triggered, so any sensory input, it could be auditory, it could be visual, it could be something that the child eats and it's like, oh, the child goes into that disgust emotional state, that all usually triggers the stress response when cortisol comes online and your adrenaline comes online and it's all circulating into my system, and that's what is happening. So if that's what is happening, and if the child's sensory, the stress response is getting triggered, an example of this would be if a lion is chasing a deer, okay, the deer's stress response is triggered. The deer is running away, that is flight. If the deer stands and tries to fight with the lion, it's fight. So we get into fight, flight, and if the deer has run enough and the lion is still behind, the deer falls down and feigns, pretends that it's dead. Now this is not a cognitive strategy, it happens very automatically, okay. So the deer appears to be dead to the lion and the lion takes a break, and that's when the deer gets up and starts running away. So again the flight system gets activated. So this fight flight freeze is a state into which our kids go into, and when we get into a fight flight state, all our sensory systems, vision, auditory, whatever sensory systems, taste, they all get kindled, they're all firing. So everything is like, vision is too much, oh god, so much sound, oh I don't want the touch. It depends again on your child on which is the preferred input channel, but that is what starts getting triggered, okay. That's what happens when the stress response is triggered. So one is it affects the sensory systems. Two, it will affect my digestion, it will affect my rest digest system, so it will not let my child sleep at night. The digestion would be affected, eating, chewing, absorbing food, gaining weight, all of that would be affected. Child may have allergies, food sensitivities, a lot of those kinds of things would come up. So that's when the stress response is really high. So if the stress response is high and I'm working on sleep, I'm working on gut, I'm working on other things, I'm working on it separately, it would help, but not to the extent where I settle down the stress response. So it's very important that the stress response is settled. Fight and flight is related to moro reflex. Freeze is related to fear paralysis reflex. There was a study which says that more than, I think, 80-90% of kids who have autism have a presence of fear paralysis and moro reflex. And when those reflexes are present, the child is always in a state of the high triggered stress response, and then in that state to be able to learn, to focus, to talk, to communicate becomes difficult. Is that making sense, what I'm trying to tell you? Let me know if I've been able to explain to you what I mean by the stress response. I don't know what is sleep parallelism. I have no idea about that. What I'm trying to tell you is when the child is in a state of stress response, when it is triggered, in that state, it is difficult for a child to do anything which requires digestion, sleeping, absorbing food, learning, anything. Yeah. So it's like how to identify those triggers to stress response. No, I mean, most kids, as I said, the sensory issues which we are working on. I mean, when I work with kids, I don't work on individual areas. When I work on the basics, so if you work on fear paralysis reflex, I'll show you one technique that I do, very basic. Let me know if the mic is making sound. Is it making sound if I do this over here? Is it too much or is it okay? Is it okay? A little. All right. So what I'm saying is one of the techniques, I mean, there are many things that I can work upon to work on the stress response and to settle it down. There is something called safe and sound protocol. We work on integration of moro reflex. We work on integration of fear paralysis reflex. We work on, kinesiology. There are various ways by which I can work on calming the stress response. And once the stress response is calmer, child is learning, talking, speaking, communicating, a lot of things which are down, and what you say offline become online. And it takes time, it doesn't just happen ki you work on an exercise and everything gets better. There's a lot of what you say reset that happens, there's a lot of reset. Behaviors may come go, and then there's a good graph that you would start seeing. So that is what I mean by stress response. So what I wanted to show you was a very simple thing. If you can see, these are my two collarbones over here, and the bone which is in between the two collarbone is my sternum. So I put my hand on the sternum. I can do this to a child, okay? When the child and what I do is I put the other hand and I go like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then I pause and I let the child breathe in. So I took a nice breath. I don't tell the child to breathe. I let it happen naturally. And then again I go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then again I pause. And I do it again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So where I work on the sternum, this is the part actually. If I move back, this is the place where the fear paralysis reflex is. This is the stimulation point. Okay, when we go into fear, we go like this. So when we get out of fear and when we tap on this, it really helps. So if I do this kind of a tapping, maybe once in a day, 3 sets as I did right now, you would see the child getting a little settled. I don't say this is the only thing to do, but this is one of the things that you can get started with, So this is one of the ways that we can do it. So basically what I'm trying to communicate is that, so the question was about sleep. What happens if the child wakes up so many times in the day? Then I can just hold here and I can go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or I can just do it, without saying it, because that rhythm is important. That cha cha cha, 1, 2, cha cha cha. That rhythm, if I do it, it helps. So if the child wakes up at night, I can do this. I can do this. The other thing that I can also do is, I mean, I'm not recommending this to do it every day, but up to 3 traces I can do. So I start here, where my eyebrow ends. I go like this. I go behind the ear, okay, and I go behind on my shoulder. I'm going behind. I'm not on top. I'm behind. I go down, down, down. I come straight and I come out of my ring finger. So I do it on both the sides, end of the eyebrow, behind the ear, go behind, straight, 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 out of the ring finger. This is called tracing the triple warmer backwards. When I do this backwards, up to 3 traces. If a child wakes up at night, if I do this, the child would calm down. If I do this, the stress response will calm down. And once that starts happening, you will see child would be able to sleep better. But that's not the only thing to do. I have a course completely on sleep training, which is what I mean, if your child wakes up, you can check that course. But what I'm trying to tell you is this is not the only thing. But right now, something that you can do if your child wakes up at night, it would help you. So tapping here, tracing the triple warmer backwards, and I'm not pressing or anything, it's just a trace, I'm just tracing it. This is all that I'm doing. It really, really helps to calm down the stress response. But when I do this backwards, it's a temporary thing, it won't stay forever. So I need to work on the root cause of what is making the child not sleep well. Yeah. So first thing that I wanted to speak about was what is autism. Second thing that I wanted to talk about is what is the why is sleep important, how many hours of sleep is important, sleeping at the same time every day is important, because this is so easy, as in, I have to go take my child for therapy, there are so many things that we have to do, and this is the simplest thing that we can do if I want to work on my child's behavior. So this is something that I wanted to share. How many times should we continue to tap and do the triple warmer? So this tapping, I can do it up to 3 sets. I can do it 3-4 times in a day if required. The backward tracing, I would do it only 3 times. I wouldn't do more than that. If you're working with a professional, then they can guide you better, but not more than 3 times. Yes? I've done something same unknowingly. Yeah, exactly. Because all our elders know it, there's a reason why they do what they do. All right. So Siddiq Ahmed says the child is on a medication. Siddiq, you know what? I will try and work out something if I can give some percentage off on my courses, but on sleep, there is a lot of exercises in that course that I've suggested on sleeping well. So if you can check that out and do those exercises, it would help. So first thing was, what is autism?